So today let's look into elective paper rural livelihoods and management. So this is the syllabus for rural livelihoods management, and we have two blocks here. Block 1, livelihoods overview, and block 2, livelihoods framework. In block 1 we have three units: meaning of livelihoods, true livelihoods, and livelihoods landscape. And in block 2 we have poverty and marginalization, vulnerability and gender, livelihoods framework, livelihoods assessment tools. Today and tomorrow we'll be discussing all these topics. So now let's try to understand what are rural livelihoods. So basically, a livelihood refers to the way people earn money and support their families. In rural areas like villages, small towns, and countryside communities, most of those people depend on natural resources and many traditional occupations. Unlike in cities, where we have so many big offices, industries, or large businesses. So basically, a rural livelihood refers to the way people in villages and small towns, they earn money, fulfill their daily needs, and support their families. Unlike urban areas, like in urban areas, jobs are generally concentrated in offices, factories, and industries. But whereas rural employment, it is more dependent on natural resources and more traditional kind of occupations which have existed in rural areas for generations. They are generally they generally include like farming or agriculture, fishing or animal husbandry, which includes dairy, poultry, sheep rearing, and some handicrafts and small businesses. Also some daily wage labor works. There are some key features of rural livelihoods. For example, rural livelihoods, they heavily depend on nature, as most people in rural areas rely on farming, livestock, fisheries. So their income is affected. It can get affected by climate change or seasons, rainfall, and natural disasters. So we can say that their livelihoods are heavily dependent on nature. And another key feature includes they are generally family-based economy. For example, we can see in many cases that entire families work together on farms or businesses, which is not so common in cities where we see people, they do individual works or jobs in cities. And another key feature includes it has limited industrial development. Unlike urban areas that have large factories or IT hubs and rural economies, I mean, urban areas have large factories and IT hubs, but in rural economies, they go through agriculture or small scale industries and handicraft. They are also very low, they have very low and unstable income. Farmers, laborers, and artisans, they often do not have fixed monthly salaries, and their earnings can fluctuate based on their crop productions, market demand, and seasonal variations. So we can say that some of the key features of rural livelihoods are they are heavily dependent on nature, they are generally family based economies, and they have very limited industrial development, and they have very low and unstable income. These four can categorized as a few key features of rural livelihoods. More than 65% of India's population lives in rural areas, and more than 50% of the rural workforce is engaged in agriculture. Agriculture contributes around 17 to 18% to India's GDP or gross domestic product. The rural economy also includes small industries, rural markets, and cottage industries. Without rural livelihoods, food production, traditional industries, and handicraft also would decline, which would affect both rural as well as urban populations, directly or indirectly. And there are few types of rural livelihoods. Firstly, agriculture-based livelihoods. Agriculture is the backbone of rural India. It provides employment and income to over 120 million farmers. It also includes crop cultivation, horticulture, floriculture, and organic farming. There are different types of farmings. For example, subsistence farming. Farmers grow crops mainly for their families and they do not sell much in the market. This subsistence farming is generally common in states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh. And there's another type of farming called as commercial farming. In commercial farming, there's large scale cultivation of crops such as wheat, rice, cotton, and sugarcane. These are generally for sale in the market, unlike previous subsistence farming, which is mainly focused on personal use for their families and for themselves. Whereas commercial farming, it's more for the sale in the market. It is generally practiced in Punjab, Haryana, and Maharashtra. And there's another type of farming called as horticulture and floriculture, growing fruits such as mango, banana, and vegetables such as potatoes or onions, and flowers like roses, marigolds. They generally sell these for profit. And India is the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables in the world. And there's a fourth type of farming called as organic farming. In organic farming, it is generally uses natural fertilizers like cow dung, and they avoid chemicals as much as possible. It is gaining a lot of popularity these days, and we can see it in Sikkim, Uttarakhand, and Kerala due to growing health awareness. So these four are some basic types of farmings. I'll repeat again. They are subsistence farming, commercial farming, horticulture and floriculture, and organic farming. Now let's discuss some challenges in agriculture. Agriculture is generally dependent a lot on rainfall. 60% of Indian farmland is rain-fed. If it means that if there is no proper rainfall, those crops could fail, which accounts to 60% of Indian farmland. And another challenge includes low productivity. Many farmers still use traditional tools and they lack modern equipment or techniques such as irrigation techniques, which can lead to lower crop production. And another challenge is fluctuating prices. If the production is high, market prices generally drop. If it means it also reduces the profits of the farmers. For example, when onion production increased in Maharashtra, prices crashed, which led to losses for farmers. So these are the three types of challenges. Firstly, our agriculture is heavily dependent on rainfall, over 60% of Indian farmland, and there's low productivity because of the traditional tools which farmers use. And another challenge is fluctuating prices. Now let's look into another type of farming, which is animal husbandry and dairy farming. Livestock farming is the second largest occupation in rural India. It includes dairy farming, poultry, goat, and sheep rearing. So, why is livestock important? It provides additional income to the farmers, like milk, eggs, meat. They are in like very high demand in the market. So, it makes profits for the farmers. So, it's a profitable business. And India is the world's largest producer of milk with over 22% of global production. And there are few types of animal husbandry. Firstly, dairy farming. So dairy farming means selling milk from cows and buffaloes. And poultry farming, which means raising chicken for eggs and as well as meat. India also produces 122 billion eggs annually, making it the third largest egg producer in the world. And then there's sheep and goat rearing. So it's important for wool, making wool or collecting wool, meat, as well as milk production. We can see it in states like Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Karnataka. There are also few challenges in livestock. For example, there are disease outbreaks. We are seeing it a lot in recent news or newspapers, such as bird flus, and there are also some other kind of diseases such as foot and mouth disease, which reduce the livestock numbers. There's also lack of veterinary care in remote villages, which leads to high livestock mortality. Another challenge is rising costs of animal feed. It increases production expenses on farmers. So, we have looked into three types of animal husbandry. Firstly, dairy farming, second, poultry farming, then sheep and goat rearing. And the challenges in livestock farming includes disease outbreaks, lack of veterinary care, and rising costs of animal feed. We also have some government support for dairy and livestock farmers, such as National Dairy Development Board, NDDB, which provides funds as well as training to dairy farmers. And we have Rashtriya Gokul Mission. This mission, it aims to improve cow and buffalo breeds for higher milk production. And there are also subsidized loans for poultry as well as dairy farming available under many schemes. We also have few government supports for agriculture-based livelihoods, such as some irrigation projects, such as Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, which helps farmers get better irrigation facilities. And there are some loan assistance programs and schemes, such as KCC, which offers farmers low interest loans. And there's also crop insurance available for farmers, such as Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. It protects farmers against crop losses due to bad weather. Now let's look into fishing industry. This is another type of rural livelihood. Fishing is a Fishing is a major livelihood in coastal states and regions where they have rivers and lakes. Over 14 million people in India, they depend on fisheries for their income. Some of the top fishing states in India include, like, for marine fishing, it's Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. Whereas for freshwater fishing, we have West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and Bihar. There are various types of fisheries. Firstly, marine fishing. Marine fishing means catching fish from oceans and seas. It includes famous species such as prawns, tuna, and hilsa. And another type of fishing includes inland fishing. Inland fishing means catching fish in lakes, rivers, and ponds. It is not from oceans or seas. Marine fishing is done in oceans and seas, whereas inland fishing is done in lakes, rivers, and ponds. It includes fishes such as katla, rohu, and carp. And then there's aquaculture. Aquaculture means fish farming in artificial ponds. We can see it been widely practiced in Andhra Pradesh. So we have three types of fisheries. One is marine fishing, inland fishing, and aquaculture fishing. The difference between these is marine fishing is done at oceans and seas, whereas inland fishing is done in rivers, lakes, and ponds, whereas aquaculture, it is widely practiced in artificial ponds. So what are the challenges in fishing industry? We have seasonal bans and restrictions. There are certain seasons known as feeding seasons in which we are not supposed to catch any fish. And such seasons, they can cause losses to these farmers who heavily depend on or solely depend on fishing. So it affects their income. And there's also pollution and overfishing. We can see a lot of pollution that is happening to our seas, oceans, lakes, and all. And also overfishing is also has become a challenge, which is reducing the population of fish available in the sea. This is one reason why we don't catch fish in certain seasons, and which ultimately leads to seasonal bans. That is again another problem for those people who solely depend on fishing as occupation. And also there's lack of cold storage facilities, which can cause spoilage of fish before they even reach the markets. So the three main challenges of fishing industry include seasonal bans and restrictions, pollution and overfishing, lack of cold storage facilities. There are also government supports provided for fishermen. For example, there's Blue Revolution scheme, which promotes modern fish farming, and there's subsidized loans available to them for buying boats, fishing nets, and etc. And there's insurance for fishermen when they meet with any kind of sea accidents. And another type of rural livelihood includes rural handicrafts and small businesses. Rural India is famous for its handicrafts and traditional industries. It provides employment to over 7 million artists. So, some of the popular rural handicrafts include handloom weaving, for example, producing Banarasi or Kanchipuram saris or Chanderi saris. These are all called as handlooms. And then we have pottery and terracotta work, which means these artists use clay to create beautiful pots or some sculptures solely dependent on clay. And then there's bamboo crafts. They use this bamboo for making baskets, furnitures, mats. We see it widely practiced in northeastern India. So some of the popular rural handicrafts include handloom weaving, pottery and terracotta work, and bamboo crafts. Some of the challenges in rural handicrafts include currently we see a lot of automation. There's so many machines which a lot of industries are using. So these machines are replacing the handmade goods. So one challenge is machine-made products are replacing handmade goods. So another challenge is there's a lack of marketing and branding. So many artists they don't know how to market them or they don't have any branding, which ultimately reduces their sales. And there's a limited access to credit for artists. So the three main challenges are machine-made products are replacing handmade goods, lack of marketing and branding, it reduces sales, and there's limited access to credit for artists. Some of the government supports for rural artists include firstly, Mudra loan scheme, and then there's handloom weaver scheme, which provides both training as well as financial aid. And then we have e-commerce platforms like GEM, which is Government e-marketplace, which allows artists to sell products online. Rural livelihoods, I'll repeat these government support schemes again. One's Mudra loan scheme, handloom weaver scheme, and e-commerce platforms such as Government e-marketplace. So these rural livelihoods, they act as the foundation of India's economy. Agriculture, dairy, fishing, and handicrafts. These sectors employ millions of people and they contribute significantly to GDP. However, these sectors face challenges like low income, lack of technology, even climate change. Through government schemes, modern techniques, and entrepreneurship, this it can help strengthen rural employment and improve living standards. So now let's look into some government schemes and policies. Government initiatives for rural development. The Government of India has launched several schemes to support rural livelihoods and to create employment opportunities, also to improve infrastructure, enhance agricultural productivity. So the aim of these policies, government initiatives is to support rural livelihoods, create employment opportunities, improve infrastructure, and enhance the agricultural productivity. These initiatives aim to reduce poverty, increase rural incomes, and promote sustainable development in villages and small towns. So the aim of these initiatives are support rural livelihoods, create employment opportunities, improve infrastructure, and enhance agricultural productivity. And the aim is to reduce poverty, increase rural incomes, and promote sustainable development. So let's look into few schemes and policies. Firstly, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So it was launched in 2005. The objective of this act is to provide 100 days of guaranteed wage employment per year to every rural household. So this act's main aim is to provide 100 days guaranteed wage employment. It includes work such as construction of roads, water conservation projects, tree plantations, and irrigation facilities. And we have 5 crore rural families who benefit every year from this act. Before Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, there was seasonal unemployment. Seasonal unemployment was a major issue in rural areas when farmers had no kind of income during off season. For example, I told you like these rural livelihoods are heavily dependent on nature or climate change. So there are some periods in a year where farmers have no any kind of income. They don't have any kind of income. So in order to support these farmers in such stages, and there are many villagers who used to migrate to cities in search of jobs, which led to overcrowding in urban slums. There was also lack of basic rural infrastructure such as roads, ponds, and irrigation system. It was all before this act. And the impact of this act was it, it created employment. In 2020 to 2021, more than 389 crore person days of work were generated under this act. It also helped reduce poverty by providing steady income to rural families. And another impact was women empowerment. About 50% of Manrega workers are women. It gave them financial independence. Women workers have used their earnings to invest in their children's education and start small businesses. And another big impact was infrastructure development. Thousands of new rural roads, ponds, dams, and irrigation canals have been built, improving agriculture. In Rajasthan, Manrega funds were used to restore traditional water bodies, reducing water storage, reducing water shortage from farmers. So, before this act, there was seasonal unemployment, and there was heavy migration from rural areas to urban areas, increasing the slums, and there was lack of basic rural infrastructure. The impact this act created was it generated employment, it empowered women, and it also increased the infrastructural development. However, there are some challenges in this act. There have been delayed payments. Many workers had to wait for weeks or even months to receive their wages, as well as there was corruption and fake job cards. Some local officials they create fake job cards and they used to claim wages for non-existent workers. And there was lack of skilled jobs. Many jobs under this act include manual labor, which does not provide any long-term career growth. So these three are some major challenges. Firstly, delayed payments, corruption and fake job cards, lack of skilled jobs. And another scheme is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Beam Yojana, which is crop insurance scheme. It was launched in 2016. The objective of this scheme is to protect farmers from crop losses, which can be due to natural disasters like droughts, floods, pests, or even some diseases. This the coverage of the scheme was it provides financial compensation if crops are damaged. So farmers pay only 2% of the premium for Kharif crops. Kharif crops are summer crops, and 1.5% for Rabi crops or winter crops, and 5% for commercial or horticulture crops. The remaining premium is paid by the government. So why is this scheme introduced? Farmers used to suffer massive losses when crops fail due to bad weather, leading to which leads to debt and suicides. And traditional crop insurance schemes were very expensive, so they had very low participation. Hence, this scheme aimed to reduce farmer distress and encourage modern farming methods. And the impact of this scheme was it increased financial security for farmers. Over 3 crores farmers enroll in this scheme every year. Example, in Maharashtra, after 2019 floods, 2,800 crores were paid as compensation to the affected farmers. So there's increased financial security for farmers under this scheme. And there's also encouragement to invest in better farming. Farmers now they are more willing to use high quality seeds, fertilizers, and irrigation systems since they have insured against these losses. This has led to increased agricultural productivity. And another impact is reduction in farmer suicides. Many marginal farmers who were in debt due to crop failures, they now receive compensation, preventing extreme financial distress. So before this scheme, farmers used to suffer massive losses when crops fail. And the traditional crop insurance schemes, they were highly expensive, hence they had very low participation. And farmers used to be under high distress and they had lack of modern farming methods. And because of this scheme, it increased the financial security for farmers and it encouraged to invest in better farming and it reduced the farmer suicides. So what are the challenges in this scheme? Few challenges include delayed claim settlements. Many farmers complain that they do not receive timely compensation after crop losses. And also there's low awareness. Some farmers they do not even know how to apply for this scheme or they lack access to proper documentation. And then there's private insurance companies rules. Some private insurance firms they prioritize profits and they delay payments to farmers. So the challenges include delayed claim settlements, low awareness, and private insurance companies' roles. So we have another scheme, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which is for rural road development scheme. It was launched in 2000. The objective of this scheme is to connect remote villages with all weather roads and also to improve rural transportation. So its basic objective is to increase the connectivity among remote villages through roads and also to through improving rural transportation. So through roads and through transportation, this scheme aims to connect remote villages. So why was this scheme introduced? Many villages they had no proper roads, making it difficult to transport farm produce or even access healthcare or even attend schools. There was no proper connectivity. And there was also poor road connectivity, which led to higher costs for farmers as they had to travel long distances to sell their crops. So, the impact of this scheme was better market access for farmers. Farmers, with this connectivity, farmers can now transport their crops faster and at lower costs, leading to higher profits. Example, in Bihar, rural roads built under this scheme, they reduced transportation costs by 35%, benefiting thousands of farmers. And another impact is that increased rural employment opportunities. New roads have encouraged businesses like small shops, transport services, and local markets to grow. Also, daily wage laborers can now travel easily to nearby towns for jobs. And another impact is that improved education and healthcare. School attendance rates have also improved as children can now travel safely and faster. Also, pregnant women and sick patients can now reach hospitals faster, reducing maternal and infant mortality rates. So, initially, villages had no proper roads, which made it difficult for transport farm produce or access healthcare or even to attend schools. And there was poor road connectivity, which led to higher costs for farmers as they had to travel long distances to sell their crops. And the impact of this scheme was it increased the access for farmers to the market, which is better market access to farmers. It increased rural employment opportunities. It also improved education and healthcare. So some of the challenges of this scheme are there's poor quality construction. Some, not some, we can say so many roads deteriorate quickly due to substandard materials and corruption. Right after they are constructed, we can see a lot of potholes on the roads these days. It's all because of the poor quality and there's lack of maintenance. Many roads become damaged during monsoons due to lack of proper care, and also there's delays in completion. Some projects they face heavy delays due to land acquisition issues and bureaucratic inefficiencies. So the challenges include poor quality construction, lack of maintenance, delays in completion. So all these government initiatives, they play a crucial role in improving rural livelihoods, boosting income levels, and reducing poverty. However, effective implementation, transparency, and regular monitoring are essential to maximize their benefits. So, so basically, a livelihood refers to the way people earn money and support their families. In rural areas, villages, small towns, and countryside communities, most people depend on natural resources and traditional occupations. I'll just give a brief gist of everything again. So, rural jobs generally includes farming, fishing, animal husbandry, handicrafts, and small businesses, as well as daily wage labor. And some of the key features of rural livelihoods include They are heavily dependent on nature. They are generally family based economies and they have limited industrial development and they also have low and unstable income. And we have different types of rural livelihoods. Firstly, agriculture based livelihoods. We have different types of farming, such as subsistence farming, commercial farming, horticulture and floriculture, and organic farming. And some of the challenges in agriculture are it is heavily dependent on rainfall and there's low productivity as farmers still use traditional tools. And also there's fluctuating prices, market prices. In some government support schemes for agriculture includes Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana and there's Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. And another type of rural livelihood is animal husbandry and dairy farming. It provides additional income and India is the world's largest producer of milk. And we have different types of animal husbandry, such as dairy farming, poultry farming, sheep and goat rearing. And the challenges in livestock farming includes disease outbreaks, lack of veterinary care, and the rising costs of animal feed. Some of the government support schemes include National Dairy Development Board, and there's Rashtriya Gokul Mission, as well as subsidized loans for poultry and dairy farming. And then we have fishing industry. So that there are three types of fisheries. Firstly, marine fishing, inland fishing, and aquaculture. Marine fishing is done at oceans and seas. Inland fishing is done at lakes, rivers, and ponds. And aquaculture is it's a farming practiced in artificial ponds. And the challenges in fishing industry include there are seasonal bans and restrictions, and there's pollution and overfishing, and there's also lack of cold storage facilities. Some of the government support for fishermen include Blue Revolution Scheme, subsidized loans, insurance for fishermen. And then we have rural handicrafts and small businesses. The popular rural handicrafts includes handloom weaving, then we have pottery and terracotta work, and we have bamboo crafts. Some of the challenges in rural handicrafts include machine-made products are now replacing the handmade goods. Also, there's lack of marketing and branding. And then we have limited access to credit for artists. And some of the government support schemes for rural artists include Mudra Loan Scheme, and we have Handloom Weaver Scheme, and we have e-commerce platforms like Government e-Marketplace. And some of the government initiatives for rural development, we have looked into Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, which was launched in 2005. It increased the employment and it also empowered women and it also resulted in infrastructure development. Some of the challenges of this act includes there have been delayed payments to the workers and there's also corruption and fake job cards and also there's a lack of skilled jobs. And we have another scheme, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, which was launched in 2006. The impact of this scheme was it increased financial security for farmers and it encourages the farmers to invest in better farming, and it also reduce the farmers' suicides. Some of the challenges include there has been reported delayed claim settlements, and there's also low awareness among the farmers, and then there's private insurance companies which delay payments to the farmers. And then we have another scheme, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Rural Road Development Scheme. It was launched in 2000. Its objectivity is to, its aim is to connect remote villages with all weather roads and also through rural transportation. The impact of the scheme was it made better market access for farmers, and it also increased rural employment opportunities and improved education and health. And the challenges include poor quality construction, lack of maintenance, and delays in completion. So all these government initiatives, they played a crucial role in improving rural livelihoods, boosting income levels, and reducing poverty. However, effective implementation, transparency, and regular monitoring are essential to maximize their benefits. So tomorrow let's look into the role of NGOs and self-help groups and the challenges in rural development. So if you have any doubts, you can please ask me. Okay, then thank you all. See you all tomorrow.